Hey, most people want to be millionaires, but don't know what to do to make it happen. Well, today's guest is the author of Making Millionaires. We sit down with Loral Langemeier, who is a 6-time New York Times bestselling author, and she also is the master distributor of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad cash flow game. Now, in her latest book, Laurel shares 47 stories from millionaires that she's worked with to help them grow and scale their portfolio. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. Check it out right here on Multifamily Insights. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. Loral Langemeier is a world-renowned financial expert, 6-time, that's right, 6-time New York Times bestselling author, a sought-after speaker, and the director and CEO of several multi-million-dollar alternative asset companies, including integrated wealth systems, with over 20 years in finance mentoring and coaching, not to mention real estate investments, business acquisitions. And she's worked with folks like Bob Proctor, Robert Kiyosaki, John Gray, and much more. I could go on and on, but let's just bring her on to the show. Let's welcome to the show today, Loral Langemeier.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I probably just really skimmed the top of your bio, and there's so much more to get into. But why don't you take 2 minutes and give our listeners a little bit more on your background?
Grew up in a farm in Nebraska. At 17, everybody wants to know my kind of defining moment. I think we all have that defining wake-up moment. I got the book Think and Grow Rich from Dennis Waitley at a seminar. Through how early I started going. From there led me to Bob Proctor and Born Rich. At like 21 years old, I hired Bob. And I'm like, I'm a college student. I don't have $25,000. He said, you'll figure it out if you want to work with me. So I figured it out. I was actually personal trainer, aerobics instruction through my college career. Got a master's in exercise physiology. My bachelor's was in finance and business, though. So I took my first career through exercise phys, and I was contracted by Chevron to build 272 fitness centers on offshore oil rigs outside of Louisiana, Texas, Florida, that whole area. So that was a lot of my 20s. And then Bob, stayed in a relationship. In 1996, another defining moment. He said, I think I have your transition out of where you are to back to what you want to do. And he said, there's this lady, Sharon Lechter, and this guy, Robert Kiyosaki, they're writing this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and they have this game. So fly down and meet him, and you market the game, and they'll do the book. Because they were going to focus on the book. He said, they're going to leave the game behind. Maybe you have an opportunity. So I just flew down, had a little chat at Sharon Lechter's kitchen table, and left the master distributor of a game. So I was an exercise physiologist at Chevron. The next day, the master distributor of a game that I was in the finance world. So I gradually left and transitioned. And I share that because a lot of people do a very intense shift to your identity. And so you end up in an identity crisis, and it takes you a while to get going. And, I experienced that. And, people are like, well, don't you work for Chevron? Aren't you an exercise physiologist? I said, yes, but not anymore. That's not who I am. So it's an interesting transition. I stayed at the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I stayed on that team for about 4 or 5 years because of Dolph DeRose and Diane Kennedy and all the original greats that were on the advisor. And I was the game girl, they called me. Became a millionaire in real estate. So I did that in 1999. And I shouldn't say the rest is history, because then I left them to do my own thing, because I knew that I knew what I wanted to do, which is the how-to. Because every time somebody played the cash flow game, people say, how do you put this in your life? Everybody wanted it, right? How do you do it? And I'm like, I'm going to be the how-to girl. I'm going to get down to the nitty-gritty of where do you bank? How do you do your credit? How do you do the foundation right? So you can build and integrate that team, which is, to your point, John, why I end up with integrated wealth systems is I help you integrate your wealth team. It's difficult to do because the financial services world is so segregated. right? So, and we'll get into that in the interview, but that's kind of how I landed here. And I got 6 New York Times bestsellers. Part of my journey was a show on CNBC with Barbara Corcoran and Phil Town before Shark Tank even began, and then was invited to Sharks, and that was not a gig I wanted to do. And then mainly because I have 2 kids, single mom, and I want to live in Lake Tahoe and raise ski kids. I wasn't going to live in New York or LA. So I've been in Lake Tahoe since 2000, and it's a fun journey.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, so much great
Oh,
stuff
so
there.
fun.
What a phenomenal journey. You talked about growing up on a farm, going to college, meeting Bob Proctor, wanting to hire him, but not having the money at that time. He said, "You'll figure it out." So you did. You started working and doing a lot of different stuff, working in the exercise industry, and from there, you had this chance encounter where you had an opportunity to go work with, the Rich Dad team and be the master distributor of the cash flow game, a game that many of our real estate investors and listeners are aware of and familiar with and played. I know when I was in Chicago, there was a group that would hold cash flow nights where they would have
Yep.
the game and they would invite people out and investors and use that as a means to teach people about cash flow. So certainly hugely successful. And from there, you went from, all right, there's the game component, which makes this fun and interesting. But how do we get to the how to part? How do we
Yeah.
teach people actually how to do that? And that's where you kind of shifted, writing 6 best-selling books and really spending the rest of your career educating people and helping folks become millionaires.
Yep.
Can you just talk to us about, I mean, there's so many places I want to take this,
So
right?
much fun. So much fun.
Yeah.
What
You,
else
you
would
know,
I?
I want to go back to something you said, and you mentioned the identity shift. And that's a challenge I know a lot of people struggle with, particularly, for our listeners, many of them are trying to get into real estate or want to become full-time real estate investors, but they're either held back by their day job or the perception of who
Yeah.
they are. You mentioned that for you, you were able to make that shift a little quicker. Can you maybe just elaborate a little bit more about maybe your mindset and how you were able to make that shift and take on opportunities that you knew would be great for you, even if it didn't match the resume that you've established up to that point?
Yeah, and it was an interesting category because Rich Dad Poor Dad in 1996 hadn't really hit. I mean, the bestseller and who it became was in 1998 and on. So there was 2 years of they were developing, I was developing, and I would have like my exercise phys world call me for the project, and that finally you just have to say no. So again, to listening audience, how do you make the shift? The number one thing, you better have an amazing mentor. I mean, my team of mentors and guides and advisors, I intentionally put a lot of really, really experienced people around me, because the number one thing people would always say is, are you a millionaire? Like, how are you going to be a millionaire? I mean, if you want to do the Rich Dad Poor Dad thing. And I said, no, I'm going to be, though. And I'm going to be one of the fastest ones. You can either go along with me or figure it out alone. And so I just said, and then when I actually became the Millionaire Maker, right, and actually got the brand and the books and the title and all that, um, it's because a lot of them did come along and we did it together. And I want to speak to the other side, especially I think there's a body of your listeners that really need to hear. So number one, you really better be financially able to say no to your prior life, especially if you're a high income earner, W-2. That transition to being a real estate active, like I was active in real estate and then became passive later. And I'm still passive today for the most part. I mean, I still do some development stuff, and so I'm never out of the game. I love it. I'm addicted to the game. I think it's too fun. The game called real business in the streets. But I think for a lot of people, they think they can just drop their day job and jump over here. You better be financially stable. You better have a mentor and a lot of capital behind you or a database. So the asset I brought to the team that helped make me a millionaire, in my millionaire market, was Norman, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City. So when I decided, like, I'm going for it, by that time, this was 1999, January 8th, I found I was pregnant and going to be a single mom. He didn't want to be a dad. It's pretty obvious, which is fine. So then I'm like, oh God, I got to get serious. I mean, not that I wasn't serious, but I'm talking, I had a deadline. So I called the mentor. I was, again, resistant to pay another 25 or 30 grand. And I said, okay, it's time. He said, finally. He says, get on a plane and fly to Oklahoma City. I said, what are we doing? He said, you have a database of how many people? I said, at that point, I had sold over 18,000 people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad games and books and stuff, right? And so he said, we're going to use the database. I said, to do what? He said, raise money. I said, I don't know how to do that. He said, we'll show you. And it's because I had that asset, I got such a valuable spot on that team, because out of that 18,000 people, they did it mostly. They showed me how to raise $16 million. And my God, I mean, John, we bought streets of Norman, Oklahoma. We revitalized a lot of that town. There's a lot of money. We bought a lot of commercial real estate. So I went from like trodden along to just like into a team who just put me in the right mix. But I have to say, it's because I was highly mentored by other people before. Obviously, I still had Dolph DeRose and Kiyosaki and Sharon to lean on to say, oh. The first thing I called was those guys saying, I met this guy. He wants to do this. I don't even know. I said, is it legal? How do you do this? And they said, follow along. And I kept calling back and said, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? So to have a team and then have a database, I created, and I'm getting to like the ultimate point. I created a value for me to be on that team to walk out with anywhere between 10 to 25% of every project we did, because I brought value to the project. I just didn't bring, you know, me going, I don't have no credit, no money, no things. But the database, especially for your listeners that want to jump, they have to know how valuable that is. And I find so many real estate investors have no idea that, what do you need a database for? I said, well, today I might not want to buy real estate, but John, if you don't stalk me, it's called marketing, and keep in touch with me, the day I do want to buy, I'm not even going to think of you because you're not in my inbox. You're not in my text thread sending me updates and cash flow updates. And right now, any real estate investor, you better be bragging about that bonus depreciation. Why become a real estate investor today? And a database and communication to a group of investors was probably the most valuable. Like it was transitional in 1999 for me to watch that become so valuable. And so anyway, it's a massive lesson in your transition is don't go without a mentor. Don't go with paying attention to what you have and really posture yourself well.
Laurel, excellent stuff. I love hearing your story, and you just laid a lot of great gems and nuggets for our listeners. And there are a few takeaways for me. So, one, um, you talked about understanding what you bring to the table. So, if you're going to make that transition from your day job, especially if you're a high income earner, you want to have a lot of capital saved up. If you don't have a lot of capital, you want to have a large database because there's great value in that database. The other thing you talked about was having the right mentors, and it's something we always push. You want to surround yourself with people playing the game at a high level. And you talked about the right mentors, right? Certainly there are people out there who can teach you anything there is to learn about real estate investing. But the thing that jumps out in your story is you were surrounding yourself with players who are some of the biggest names in the world in this game. And you're building a massive database, a massive network of very powerful people. And they were allowing you to be in rooms and connecting you to people. And even before you were even paying some of these people to mentor you, you were building these relationships and you were standing out in that. So you mentioned, if I'm getting the story right,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
were talking to Bob, right? And Bob is the one that connected you with Robert and his team. But that sounds like that was prior to you like officially hiring him. Can you just talk about the dynamics of that?
No, so I had hired Bob at 21. I
Oh,
was
you did
30.
hire him at 21.
Oh yeah, I did. So no, I had had multiple years. I mean, I'm well into six figures of investing into the tuition at the Proctor level. But then at one point, like when I became the Millionaire Maker, he and I then had a business called Head of the Table, where people would pay Bob and I $100,000 for 1 year. So I knew the how to, and he was Bob, and so together. I mean, again, this was probably in 2002 and three. He and I had a business together for 6, 7 years where people would pay us 100 grand. We take 10 or 15 a year and that's it. And we had that going consistently for year after year after year after year. But the reason he allowed, I say allowed, like we came together, is because I brought a very different skill set that he taught. But together we made a more holistic experience for the client,
Yeah.
because he did subconscious, all the stuff Bob does, right? The think and grow rich, which is really the thinking part, and I was the doing part. So we crushed it. My God, we made so many multimillionaires. But again, how do you get to become your mentor's partner? You better perform. And I want to talk to that, John, because I don't know how many people think that I have this. I bought this year, John. You're going to laugh. You
To
haven't
all
met.
listeners who are listening to us, what you're holding up.
It's a magic wand. It's a magic wand I bought, and it's all inspirational things on here. I thought it's perfect because people think that I'm going to do the work for them because I'm their mentor. No, I'm going to open doors for you. I'll do introductions for you. I'm going to shortcut your pain and suffering by shortcutting mistakes and things that I know you shouldn't do, or just go faster this way. And like, it's invaluable when you know how to use a mentor. And over the years, I mean, I feel like Bob taught me how to use what he could provide for me and his Rolodex. That was priceless. how many people he opened doors. But I also walked through them and I provided value before I asked to be, you got to go that way first. And I wanted to provide value to other people before I asked them for something else. Where I think a lot of people misunderstand a mentor. So, what are you going to do for me? It's like, I know what I can do for you, but you got to lean in. And there's a lot about mentoring and that team building and the respect that I gave those that I was introduced to, that when time had it, right? When they're like, we're going to use your database. I didn't know if that was okay. Like I had those people to lean back and really get some help to make sure I did that relationship with that next group right. And
Yeah.
so maintaining and keeping all doors open, even if you get in rough spots with people, clean it up and keep it strong. Because I can promise you that ultimate success of my life has been the team that I put around, not just me, our organization. I put a lot of great people around us, take care of us.
Laurel, I love that insight and the magic wand. I love it so much. There's a saying that I like to use is that mentors are not magicians.
Oh,
And
that's
that is the
good.
fallacy some people fall into is they hire someone and they expect everything to magically happen. And I will tell you, for coaches and mentors, it's extremely frustrating because we want you to succeed. We really do. We want you to succeed, but you have to recognize that there's work that has to be done. You've got to follow up. You've got to follow through. You've got to
Mhm.
position yourself to take advantage of these opportunities. And a lot of people don't. And I love
Yeah.
the fact that you talked about started work with Bob at 21. You continued to grow and scale what you were doing, and you walked through those doors and opportunities as they presented themselves to you. And even when you were getting into a world where you didn't know exactly what to do or how to do it, you had those mentors you could lean on. And from that, you're able to raise $16 million to buy whole streets in Norman, Oklahoma. And it just goes to show, again, when you take action and you show up, that is so much of it. And you talked about too, like the thinking that, Bob brought to the table versus the doing that you brought to the table and being able to pair those two together. That's a
Mhm.
very powerful tool for a lot of our listeners in understanding how to do both and how to take action to see results in their business. You had your book a second ago, and I want to talk about that, right? The Millionaire Maker, because ultimately, our listeners are looking to grow and scale their portfolio, but not just to walk around and brag and say, I've got $100 million or whatever the case may be, right? It's really to create the lifestyle that they want. And, that $1 million mark has for so long been kind of the metric that starts to open up the doors to creating the lifestyle of your design. Talk to me more about the Millionaire Maker and some of the key philosophies and principles that you help others understand to drive success in your life.
Absolutely. And I was approached because of those hours. So I'm going to pick up where the opportunities were.
Yeah.
I approached Jay Conrad Levinson because I was consumed in his guerrilla marketing work. And again, Bob coached me, said, you got to get a book. And I'm like, I don't have a book in me, and he said, you have books. So I came up with 10 things about how to do guerrilla wealth. And so I approached Jay and he's like, I do marketing, not wealth building. I said, yeah, but I'm guerrilla in my style. I was doing everything to convince him to do what it paid. And then I did some research of the other guerrilla authors and I said, what was your deal with Jay? So I started calling him. I said, I want to deal with Jay. And they said, he won't give it to you. You're in the wrong category. I said, don't tell me no, because then I'm going to work harder to get my yes. So I figured out how much their deal was. And so I went to him and I said, here's the deal. Here's what you pay your authors, or here's your cut. I said, I'm going to make you more money than any other author if we can use your name to launch my book. And so he did it. And I kept my promise, and sales were rough in the beginning. But here's what it did. 4 months after we published Guerrilla Wealth in 2004, McGraw-Hill called me and said, we want you to publish your dynamic of how you make millionaires. And I was like, I don't know how to make millionaires. So they just following me around. And the reason I want to loop it back is because your audience has to know this. As you become active and more successful, pick up real estate tours. Like I started doing real estate tours in 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4. So that's how I have made the millionaires that would just follow me around. But I didn't have a structure. So now to your question. So inside here, I have what's called a gap analysis. So I broke down because I had to. I was hired to write. I had a 7-figure advance to write 3 books. And this is what I call the sequence of the blocks. So this is where it was defining the difference, because sequencing is doing the right thing at the right time. And real estate investors are notorious for doing the right thing at the wrong time. And they wonder why things just not getting any traction, because you're doing right things, but you forgot to get incorporated. You forgot to get your insurance right. You forgot all the little, what I call the how-to basics that I love to teach. Because when your structure is right, the deal goes right. And I just saw that so clearly with people doing the right thing, wrong time. So I thought, well, let's call it sequencing and let's fix that. And that's what helped me become that millionaire really fast is the people around me were saying, why aren't you that? I said, I don't know, I'm not that, because you don't know a lot of this and it's difficult to teach. So I have 12 building blocks of sequencing your wealth and how do you do the right thing at the right time. Like the biggest one I'm going to speak to, especially again to real estate investors, is you don't have to be out of debt to become a millionaire. In fact, I'm going to probably put you into good debt because debt's just the cost of money. So why wouldn't you go borrow 1, 2, 3, 4, and even at this level, 5 and 6% money when you can make a 20% return, a 25, or whatever you're going to do in the project? And a lot of people are scared to go into those kind of debt levels. Like, I don't want to be in $1 million of debt. Well, if you're going to make 3, it's fine. Like, there's just such a weird, because of the way the whole world is taught with debt, like debt's bad. So get out of debt and then go work on your money. No, work on your money and you'll get rid of debt slowly and probably going to stay in debt for the rest of your life as long as the cost of the money is cheap. And I can tell you, I just have done this for now 25 years in making millions. This is my 25th year of my Millionaire Maker, work. And it's been interesting to watch people still struggle with that. They don't sequence right. They're resistant to sequencing. And they still have that old school thinking that I got to be out of debt before I can go be successful. Completely the wrong thinking. 1,000% the wrong thinking. You're not going to get there. You might get there in 20, 30, 40 years. But if you do it right, you can get there in 3 to 5 easily. That's a lot to my answers are really long and really
Oh
heavy.
no, no, you're good. Listen, I'm processing a lot of it too, and I'm trying to process on behalf of our listeners, right? The biggest thing you just mentioned there was sequencing, doing the right thing at the right time. And I want to hone in on that because for a while now, really the last, dozen years, multifamily investing has been just on fire. I mean, you go back to 2011, 2012, that's when I kind of started as a multifamily investor coming out of the last recession there. And, every time there was a blip or an inkling of, oh, it's going to reset or it's about to be a recession or whatever, it's been very, very short lived. And I mean, I heard it in 2018, 2020. This was, COVID hit. Absolutely, this is got to be it. And the market kept going up. We're finally in a place where multifamily values are coming down. There's a lot of supply, things like that are taking place. Interest rates shooting up. And I'm thinking about those investors who have put money into real estate, specifically multifamily. Those deals are not panning out as well as they would have liked. And maybe they're second guessing the investing, the strategy. When you talk about sequencing and just investing as well, specifically for someone who's been in this over 25 years, can you talk to us a little bit more about how to invest with that long view as opposed to maybe locking in on where your portfolio sits today?
That's a lot to unpack too. So because I do a lot of passive investing right now. So like I told you before we started the podcast, a lot of the investing I do now, like I'm in the Missouri, I'm in the Arkansas, really the Ozark market because Airbnbs are out of control. Ever since Jimmy Buffett moved in, we bought a ton and we did Airbnbs in the Ozarks. Kansas is where I do a lot. Ohio, still in Oklahoma, Texas. So those markets are part of the scalable growth strategy, but I'm going to go a little different angle in
Yeah.
the way I'm going to answer it. So obviously a lot of these folks had been my client, right? So they came to me with a big issue. They wanted to do a multifamily. They did a lot of single family and then did the transition to multifamily and then really got the rhythm of the game. But the rhythm of the strategy and the sequence is as you do that transition, you better have enough capital and credit. The other asset you can always bring to a team if you don't have a lot of capital is if you have really good credit, which a lot of high income earners do. Credit's a huge value to a team for the standpoint, even though you're going to end up with a non-recourse loan, the financials of the team standing beside are valuable. And some of them have already blown their credit. So if you can bring credit, like that's a huge sequence. So think of all the things you need to get in play before you go bigger, which you got to have sources of capital, right? And that to me comes through a proper database. And you start educating people on the internet, start building a huge database, do a newsletter, whether or just updates. You can just do market updates, however you want to stay in touch, but it's your job to stay in touch with them. So that has been a huge key to my success in anything I do is I usually have a massive list of people that are always following and listening. So, and you can start that immediately without any properties, right? So because there's a source of potential capital, just getting some family offices interested in your projects. Then obviously you have to have the project. A huge factor people, I think, because interest rates are usually the talk, you better have some insurance options in there because insurance has become more and more difficult to position. So I don't know if I'm answering the question the way you want me to, but as far as a sequence, I would have all that in play, or at least know that you have to have those variables, or the team has to have those variables. What I find is they go find the project and then they turn around and say, "Oh, I need more capital."
Yeah.
It's like you needed to have like projected what you needed coming in, because to get that far in and now you're out, that's a rough place. And I see that sequence. Probably the biggest mistake is that one. And the other one is they don't pay attention to insurance, and they don't put enough, because it's expensive right now. And they're and the other thing too that they have to plan for, again back to capital, is that more and more insurance companies, and I know this, it just happened to us earlier this year. They wanted us to have a $250,000 retainer for insurance in the restaurant. And it's like, where are you going to find that? Right. So, the investors gave up. We all voted to say we're not going to take distributions to load up that insurance account. So you just have to be mindful of the entire transaction. And I think a lot of people walk in, there's too many people, I'm just going to say it, on the internet, the bathroom wall I call the internet, or gurus who say it's easy. You can do it. It's easy once you know how to do it. Nothing's easy if you don't know how to do it. Nothing is easy. You don't have to know how to market. To learn marketing is not easy. Starting to learn how to sell is not easy. So you have to have a very well-rounded, and go back to team.
And
Like,
Laurel, to your point, it's also easy if it's just worked out until it's easy until it's not easy, right? Like if I'm playing T-ball, I could be like, oh, this is
oh
easy.
my
It's
God,
not as
love,
easy when I got a pitcher throwing it 90 miles an hour, right? It's like, what do you mean? Hitting
yeah.
a ball is easy. It's yeah, you're hitting T-ball. It's about to get harder, bro. You got to learn the technical side of how to do this. And that's what we've faced over the last 12 years. And
Mhm.
now you have to really understand, like you said, and it's not just insurance costs, right? Insurance premiums. It's understanding like the gap in coverage. They're saying, hey, we're not even going to cover this. You got to come out of pocket $500,000 before your policy kicks in. A lot of people don't know that. They're not following this. They're not reading the policies and understanding the specific coverage that they have and where the gaps are in the coverage. So if this scenario happens, how much exposure do you have? And we're just talking one aspect, right? We talk about insurance, but taxes and interest rates. And there's a lot that can kind of derail a business plan. So as you gain experience, you gain knowledge, you're surrounding yourself with people who understand these level of details. And now you're able to properly raise capital or have the sufficient funds necessary to navigate this landscape. Go ahead.
No, it's so critical. As we say all this, I also don't want you to stand still until everything's in order.
Yeah, it
Work
never will
either,
be.
because then you're going to stand paralyzed from this conversation. Going, oh my God, I don't have it all in
Yeah.
order. It's going to come in order the more you take steps. So it's sort of this interesting mind shift of, it's not going to be order. You're not going to see the yellow brick road. You're just going to see the end of it and say, well, I don't know how to get there. And you're going to form the yellow brick road by taking steps every day. And it's going
Yeah.
to keep showing itself to you on what you need to be doing. Again, mentors help speed that along because they already know the yellow brick road. They know how to lay it down. But if you walk in thinking you're going to, know how to do everything, Steve Harvey has this great video on jumping. He said, when you jump off that cliff and finally do the thing you want in your life, you're going to get bruises and cuts and your parachute's not going to open. And then at that point, most of you quit. And just know you're going to have some bumps and bruises. They get less life threatening if you have a team around you. You
I
know what I
love
mean?
that. Yeah.
People jump out there all by themselves. I'm like, what are you doing? Like when people say I'm gonna do something by myself, I think solo suffering. Why? Why would you do it? It's risky. You're betting all odds on what you know, and you don't know enough. I don't know enough sometimes when I walk into deals.
I think my big takeaway from this conversation so far is how important it is to surround yourself with the right people. Because what happens a lot of times is we have very successful people, and I want to call it an illusion, but I think sometimes people get the perception that those individuals are just special. Don't get me wrong. Like I can already tell from our conversation, like there are things that you do, like there's an energy that you have, the follow up, the persistence that maybe some people lack or they don't realize those little details matter. But it's also the humility to surround yourself with the right people, to ask their guidance and actually follow through with the directions and the feedback they give you. I mean, some people are so scared that they won't take action. They'll hear us talk about insurance and they just use that as a reason, quote unquote, to not do anything. And the truth is, no, you just got to ask better questions or get more experience on your team. And that's so critical. And again, that's one of the reasons we love talking to folks like yourself who have made so many millionaires and have helped so many other folks learn how to grow and scale, not just their portfolio, but their income so they can live the lives that they want. I know you got a special gift for our listeners today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm going to give them, because we just relaunched the Millionaire Maker version 2 earlier this year in 2025. And it is 40 more stories and testimonials of people, because the original book only had 7. So now that, years have passed, I wanted to update and give you, there's so many ways you can become a millionaire. And one of the ways that I was close, but we didn't hit it, is during my journey of 1999 to 2005, I owned all the property management companies as well. So we owned the management companies, and then we sold them all off. That we were close, but we didn't hit the millionaire status. And just when you get involved, if you're going to be active, I cannot tell you how far you need to go. Like, we had a hauling company, cleaning company. You can put so much revenue around you without just the real estate. So inside the book, there's a whole bunch of those stories. You're going to get a free ebook download of that. You're also going to get 2 tickets to an event that I do once a month. It's called the Millionaire Intensive, which really breaks down that sequencing for a good 2.5 hours. I mean, just dives in deep. And you'll have the book to study from before. And if they go to askloral.com/podcast, they can get all those free gifts.
I love it. We'll put the link to that in the show notes and check it out there. And if you want to learn more about what Loral and her team have going on, just go to askloral.com. Right now, we're going to transition and go to our round of insights. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. Loral, give us a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Which one? Which one? I would say breaking some of my own rules of not having all the things I just said in order, thinking I could, pull it along. And that's why it's just really, really you got to have all those pieces. You have to have the capital, the project, the team, and just don't break your rules once you get there. So early on, I didn't think that I needed that much team, and shortcutted a few projects, and you need team. You need the right team. The piece that I find with more people than just myself is your corporate structure defines your tax strategy. And until you start learning that when you personally make the money, you limit yourself in the amount of deductions. Real estate folks that are listening, which is primarily your whole audience, John, understand the big, beautiful bill. If you don't, put a question and ask Loral. I have the best tax teams in the country that I have in relationship to help you guys figure that out. It's just, there's a lot of important stuff. So I'd say lack of some of the team that I needed to put in play would probably be my biggest one. And then, my Yes Energy book, I think, was the other big failure. I didn't back up my database, the obvious thing. I did one backup, I didn't double back up. And when database glitches glitch and you lose the very thing that helps you make the money, build it and protect it with your life. Make sure you have all AI, all crypto. You have got to have such protection on those databases and the technology of breaches. So that was one, because I did it and I lost it for a while. I had to manually re-enter over 20-something thousand names.
Oh, wow. Appreciate you sharing those. Those are some good ones there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Give me a digital or mobile piece of technology that you would recommend for our listeners.
iFlip. iFlip is, and I'm an investor in it. It's designed by one of my students who found this amazing gentleman who works for the Deutsche Bank. We were working on the robotic trading side of life, and it's it still doesn't take you out of the market fast enough. There's still too many losses. We want to play like the big boys. We found a platform and a software. We designed it by scratch, AI-driven, takes you in and out of the stock market. So, for example, in 2020, when everybody lost 30%, I lost 2.87. So it automatically AI takes you out of the market. I'll add that to the askloral.com/podcast, and they'll get a little better value because I know it's coming from me. And they can get a free software app at iFlip. We outperform, what's the other great one that I'm having a little brain lapse? Oh, Robinhood. We outperformed Robinhood on every NASDAQ award in last years.
I love
So
it. I
it's
flip it
one of
is.
the best
We'll definitely
software,
check that out.
one of the best softwares that I play with when I want to play in the market.
All right. So I know you've written a number of books. So I'm going to ask you to pick a different author to give us the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year by a different author.
Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. Sharon Lecter's come out with a few books. Keith Cunningham's great mentor, great guy. So I have a variety, but those are my big ones. And then I do a lot of sales books, like Jed Blunk's doing some amazing sales training and books and stuff.
There we go. All right, give us a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Oh, I'm religious about that. So live your values. And if you don't know where they are, like I have a whole bunch of free downloads. You can go figure out your values. So I mean, I get up with God. So I start my day in a very spiritual, connection, routine, prayer. I work out. So I'll go to health. So it's always God, family, health.
All right. Love it. Love it. All right. Give us your number one insight for becoming a millionaire.
Oh, you have to want it with every part of your DNA. It's not like I hope I make it. It's I will make it. I don't know how the hell I'm going to make it. The determination and persistence, because you're going to get bruised a little bit. Because you may start I'll give an example, John. The amount of doctors, right, that are just sick of the medical, field in the industry, they want to jump to real estate. You probably see that too. And they have good credit. You see it all the time. It's like those, I would say, stay in your lane. And then what I'm helping a lot of doctors do is build a telemed business, which I've been amazingly successful at that, and supplement businesses. I got a lot of those kind of clients. So stay in your lane, and I'll show you how to put, I made up this term in one of my books called pactive. You're going to be active, but really you're passive because the value you bring to the team is money and credit. And possibly, the directory of the rest of your doctor buddies. But stay in your lane. Let the person who knows how to work that street and work that market. For you to jump all the way over, you can. But to expect it in a year or 2 years, I think, is a huge mistake. And typically those doctors end up with less money, lost a lot, got burned in their credit because they put their credit up, didn't pay attention to it. It got burned with no payments, and they end up as a doctor. So it's stay in your lane. You are on the planet for something bigger. You can have it all, but you better have the right people in the street.
Great advice there. All right, for our last question, we're going a little bit of a different direction. You're out there in Lake Tahoe. Give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's this amazing little place in Genoa. It's right off the lake. It's the oldest restaurant, and also right next to the oldest bar. It's called Genoa in Nevada. It's called the Pink House, and the owners have become a really dear friend. They're musicians and culinary experts and sommelier, greatest wine. It's just a quaint. I was there last night, actually. Quaint. Like anybody who comes to town, you come to town, John, we're going to Pink House.
There you go. Pink House it is.
Yeah.
Loral, great stuff. I really enjoyed our conversation today. A few things jump out to me. One, just great energy, just listening to your stories as a college student, just hustling, just getting after it, hiring, having a chance to meet Bob Proctor, hiring him, working with him, but saying yes to the opportunities that opened up those doors, right? The big takeaway for me is about mentorship and getting the right mentors who can really help you scale your business. And finding the opportunities where you can make the transition. It's not about a hard shift from one day. It's about saying yes to the right opportunities to build that identity and sequencing. You talked about your book, and when I think about the book, you talk about sequencing. I think the big thing for me is understanding how to do the right thing at the right time, but also recognizing if you have the right people around you, if things go sideways, you make a mistake, something doesn't work out, that's a great point to check back in. Hey, I'm having this issue or this didn't work out. They're going to help guide you and get you back set on the right path. And some people don't do that. And you talked about folks who are trying to go at it by themselves or change careers, but they don't have help around them. That's a huge mistake. And some people fall into that. And it's just critical to be able to surround yourself with people playing the game at a higher level who can help guide you down that path. So again, thanks for all that great intel. If you want to check out Loral's book, please go to askloral.com/podcast. She's got a couple of the free goodies there. Loral, thank you again for being a great guest to come on the show. We appreciate your time and we look forward to staying in touch with you.